welcome back to the Beauty Topics podcast. I'm your host, Chantel, and I have an amazing guest on my couch today, which I can't even believe that she's here. We finally made this happen, but I would have moved heaven and earth. I would have waited. I would have came to you, whatever I needed to do to make this happen. I have a phenomenal woman sitting next to me. I met Dr. Camille Wardrop-Aline when she was doing a L'Oreal campaign. I was blessed to be able to touch her beautiful face, and she was chosen as literally one of the women that are just changing the world. And she definitely is doing that. She is literally a rocket scientist. She is one of the most educated people I have ever met in my life. She is a gorgeous Black queen from the islands, and I mean, just everything about her is inspiring. She has a foundation. She travels all over the world. She runs her own company. I mean, when you think of the term boss, it is her. She is the epitome of what a boss is, of what a leader is, and somebody who's like moving the culture forward. So I am so honored and so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for inviting me. It's just a pleasure to be here with you.
I'm so excited. I almost don't even know where to start, but can you please just tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yes. So I was born in Trinidad and Tobago. Migrated to the U.S. about 40 years ago. I can't even believe it's been that long.
Wow.
But grew up in Trinidad as one of the last of three girls. And my family, my parents really stressed education, which is what you see playing out when you look at my career. Mm-hmm. A lot of education really opened doors for me. And I think that was what my mother knew, that education would be the key, especially with girls. Yes. She said, you have to be self-sufficient. I don't want you growing up and having to rely on anybody. And so she was focused on us getting our education and spending time studying and all that. So I always say I never learned to cook until I was an adult because my
That's
mom
okay.
was like, get out of the kitchen. You need to be studying. Mm-hmm. And so I grew up in all-girl environment schools, and which I think really helped me to excel. Mm-hmm. And so I was a really good kid in math and science. I loved math. Like that was like my superpower was math. And so I knew I didn't want to be, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do as a career when I grew up, that I didn't want to be a doctor or lawyer, which are the two things your parents know.
The top two that they push.
Be a doctor, lawyer, an accountant, or a nurse. And I was like, I don't want to do any of those. But we had a family friend who was an engineer. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't know what that is. But I remember asking my mom if he made a lot of money. And she said yes. I'm like, sure, that's what I'm doing. Sign me up. But then I found out I needed math and science, which I was already good at. So I decided, okay, engineering. And then I decided aeronautical engineering because I loved planes, because we flew a lot as a family.
Yes.
And so I fell in love with planes, and I was like, I want to learn how to design planes. And I was always that young person. I was sharing this with someone earlier, that I always wanted to take the path least traveled. Mm-hmm. If somebody was doing it, I wasn't interested in it. If it was something really hard that nobody did, I wanted to take it on. I love challenges, and I am a problem solver. So I didn't know any aeronautical engineers, but I'm like, that's what I'm doing. And so I migrated to the U.S. to study aeronautical engineering. And it was in my freshman year that the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up, and that just changed my life forever. I didn't know at that point there was a place called NASA. Mm-hmm. There was a job of designing rockets and spacecraft, and there was a job of flying in space until that day. Mm-hmm. And that was it for me. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Mm-hmm. And 6 years after that, I was driving into the gates of Kennedy Space Center at NASA. That was 30 something years ago.
Incredible. I remember the Challenger, the explosion. Mm-hmm. It took the shock, like the toll of it was, that was something else. But I love the fact that you embraced being in these all-girl learning environments. Mm-hmm. I think that's amazing, because I think it helps to kind of push away some of the distraction.
For sure.
It lessens like the drama. You can really just focus. Mm-hmm. So I think that's amazing. And I love the fact that your mom was like, no. Education is your ticket to a better life.
Yes.
it is how you're going to, for lack of a better word, like get your freedom. You're
For
going to
sure.
be financially free.
For
You're
sure.
going to be just, wow, that
Yeah.
was, go mom.
Yeah.
I mean, go
Yeah.
mom for pushing that
Yeah.
and not just saying, oh, you need to be this or you need to just be, you know, apron on in the kitchen. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with
There's
that.
nothing
You can
wrong
do
with
that
that.
too,
Yeah.
you know, but the fact of the matter is that she wanted her daughters to just have the best life possible and be so educated.
And we're all very successful.
I love
My
it.
first sister is now retired, but she was a pharmacist. My second sister is still working. She's a registered nurse.
Wow.
And yeah, me.
I love it. Yeah, my sister was a labor and delivery nurse for over 20 years.
Wow.
You know? So, yeah, I just think that's incredible, but specifically like what you do fascinates me. Like I was just like I couldn't shut up. When I came home and I met you, I couldn't shut up and my husband was like, "You met a what?" And I was like, "Listen, I have to tell you all the things." I'm like, "She's beautiful, she's smart." Like I'm like, "You just don't even understand women like you. It's not you're like you're this out of the box thinker. You're not cookie cutter. You're so like on the front lines of everything."
Yeah.
And just I Googled you. I did a deep dive. I'm like, oh my gosh, she has a charity. She supports young women in math and science. And those are the things. I remember one of my kids telling me, my daughter, my oldest one, she's very intelligent like you. She's like, she didn't love English and all those subjects. She liked the math and the science because she said the answer is the answer. If I write a poem, you're going to give me your thoughts on what I
Yes.
wrote and your opinion
Facts
on what I
versus
wrote.
opinion.
But with math, the square root is this, and that's it. There's no debating it. It is what it is. And she loved the finality of it. She loved that that's the answer,
That's
period.
amazing.
Yeah. So I totally, when you have a mathematical brain, there is literally
Yeah.
nothing that can stop you.
Yeah.
Period. A mathematician?
It really-
Oh my gosh.
I agree with that. I think I don't think we stress that enough in schools. I don't think our education system creates those kind of critical thinkers, which is what you get from having an analytical view of the world, you know. And I think sometimes it leads to where we are today and some of the challenges. But it's really about critical thinking and being able to solve problems and not just taking information in and regurgitating what other people told you, but thinking through, does this make sense? Or is this factual? Or, you know, so that
Because
is
you can't
really
understand
important.
the why if it doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
You can't actually get to the root of the problem.
Exactly.
You just go in
Exactly.
circles. Oh my
Exactly.
gosh, I love it. Now, you attended an HBCU. Can you tell me a little bit
Several,
about
two, actually.
that? Okay.
So Howard University, that's where
Yes.
I went to undergrad. I did mechanical and aerospace engineering there. It was amazing because there are not many schools that offer, well, there are schools that offer aerospace engineering. Howard was offering mechanical engineering with an aerospace option and elective. And I remember, I mean, it may not mean anything to your audience, but they had a wind tunnel, which is the way you test airplane structures.
Yes. Yes.
Right? It's called a wind tunnel. And so they were one of the few schools that had a wind tunnel. So I remember in undergrad, I took it for granted then, being able to go into the lab and do wind tunnel experiments and stuff like that. And so that environment really was, I mean, critical to my foundation, you know, and just being at a HBCU surrounded by a lot of my friends from Trinidad and people I went to school with. In fact, I went to Howard because my best friend was going to Howard.
Wow.
I didn't know about Howard when I was in Trinidad. So yeah, so being surrounded by people who look like you, I think that foundation really helps give you a sense of self. People say that environment is not realistic because when you come out, that's not how the world is. But there's something to be said about building confidence in yourself, building, you know, who you are in the world, how you see yourself in the world. And I think that's what HBCUs do for us. And so I graduated with a bachelor's at Howard, and then I went to Florida. I got accepted to Florida State University, but the College of Engineering, there's the Florida A&M, Florida State University College of Engineering. They combined both schools at the College of Engineering. So I ended up graduating with my degree from FAMU. But it was a combined program. And so I did my first master's in mechanical engineering at FAM.
That's
And
amazing.
one of two, we were the first two Black women to graduate with a master's degree in mechanical engineering from Florida A&M
Come
University.
on. Do you, I'm like,
And
it's
then we were
that
both
right
hired
there.
by NASA, which was amazing because I didn't know how I was going to get to NASA. And it is, I tell the story of you never know, because I had applied to many schools for grad school and I got rejected from all of them.
Oh,
And
my
then I
goodness.
ended up going into Howard one day and seeing the marketing material for Florida State University. And they said, do your GRE and get this score. And I was like, okay, I could do that. And they accepted me. Not me taking on that acceptance was me really stepping into my future, not even knowing that, because FAMU had a relationship with NASA.
Wow.
And so I often say when many doors close, you never know what is going to open and why those doors were closed. And this particular one was open because that really was my path to fulfilling my
Your
goal
dream.
and dream of
Yeah.
working for NASA.
But see, that's okay because when one door closes, guess what? I can find a crack in a window.
Exactly. And you
Somebody
break
like
the door
exactly,
down.
or just as a Black woman, kick it in, break
For
it down.
sure.
I
Yep.
mean, you had to. I'm sure
Yep.
you had to break through a lot. Like, I mean, I just remember literally watching, like the movie Numbers with my girls and just watching what they had to go through and how they had to kick those doors down. I'm like,
Or
that's like who
Hidden
came before
Figures.
you,
Yep,
Yeah,
yep,
exactly.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
Hidden Figures. That's what I
Yeah.
meant. I'm sorry. I'm just, it's that type of stuff that you have to deal with and push through.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the strength of character
Yes.
and that community
Yes.
support,
Yes.
it's
absolutely.
it almost feels like it's impossible.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, like you said, you and a friend of yours, look what you did. Look what you accomplished. That's incredible. And I mean, Howard, wow, a wind tunnel.
Yeah.
That is for them to have state of the art equipment so you can do your experiments. And I mean, what was that like
it's
though?
true.
Like walking in there, like creating, an experiment. This is the test that I'm gonna run. And
Yeah.
what was that like?
It's
fascinating to me.
It was required. It was the expectation.
Yeah.
I remember the dean of the engineering school saying, I don't just want you all to just go and write a paper. You do the research and you just regurgitate. I want you to come up with some unique ideas, even
And
back
prove it.
then.
Yeah, and
Right?
prove that it works.
And
Wow.
so the bar was set very high. And a lot of people who don't know about HBCUs poo-poo it and say, oh, well, clearly the education is, those kids
Like it's
coming out.
subpar or something, and it's
subpar.
not.
And absolutely not. The expectation that the professors have on the students are very, very high.
Yes, I have several, colleagues and people that I've been friends with for years that went to HBCUs, and they say, let me tell you something, you're going to work 3 times as
For
hard
sure.
because when you walk out of there,
For
they
sure.
want to make sure that nobody is slamming doors
That's
in your
right.
faces because of a lack of education.
right.
So you know that that's not the reason.
Yes.
Yes.
For sure.
Oh, yes. So, NASA, first day, you're walking in the door. What was running through your mind?
Overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And of course, I could look back now on 30 years, but you have to know that in my dorm room, I had pictures of the space shuttle on my wall. So for 5 years, this was just something that I visualized. The space shuttle on the back of I think it used to fly back on the 747 when it would land in California and they'll have to bring it back for Florida. I mean, those pictures those posters I had on my wall.
Wow.
So to actually be driving in, and I was offered the job of a flight systems test engineer on the space shuttle, which meant my job was to test the fluid systems of the cargo that flew on the space shuttle for the astronauts to make sure they were safe when they were in orbit. And the experiments were able to be done when they were in orbit. And I remember it wasn't the first day, but along the way, being on the launch pad the night before a launch and looking up at this thing that I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. The most incredible experience, just
I'm like goosebumps
overwhelming.
over
Like,
here.
Camille, you are here. This is what you've dreamt of for so long, and you are here. Like, what a privilege it is.
Wow.
You know how many people want to work for NASA? And
I mean,
a fraction,
across
like
the
a
world, too.
fraction of the people. And to actually have had that opportunity. Now, of course, starting my career, I didn't know what that was, but it was incredible.
Wow. And then, but when you got the news that you were going to be working at NASA, did you just like immediately call your mom?
I don't even know. I don't know if I called her because I didn't talk to my parents that often. It was,
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have cell phones and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you talk to your parents like once a month, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if they would have known what that was.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm
They
saying?
understood the gravity
It took my
of
mom
it.
a long time, probably the last 15 years, where she recognized, oh my God, what my daughter has done.
Yes.
But so I don't think they would have known what
okay.
that was,
Wow. But I mean, I'm sure they were just the
'Cause you have to
epitome. You
know we
can't be
didn't-
more proud though.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure. And we didn't have that exposure to those things in Trinidad, to NASA and all that back then.
Right.
I tell young people, you have internet access, you have information
Yes.
overload. No matter what corner of the earth you are,
Mm-hmm.
you know the NASA brand. It wasn't like that back then. We didn't have that so they would not have had the wherewithal to know what the magnitude of that.
Yeah, that makes
you
sense.
know?
Yeah, thinking about it 30 years ago when you
Yes,
accomplished all this. Yeah,
exactly.
because I try to explain to my kids, I didn't grow up with the internet. And they're like, what
Yep.
do you mean? I said, we saw
They can.
commercials and it said, the information superhighway is coming. We didn't know what it was. We used the card catalog and the encyclopedias and microfiche and floppy disks. I'm like, we didn't live like
Yep.
that. And then we
Yep.
got dial up one day and we were like, oh.
Yeah.
So I'm
No,
like,
for
you
sure.
guys have no idea all the information that's at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Like, take advantage of
Yeah.
it, respect it, and be
Yeah.
happy that you have that.
Yeah.
So, can you explain a little bit about what like you were talking about testing the you basically were the safety, people's lives were in your hands.
For sure.
What was that like to have that kind of pressure?
And right out of school too.
Yes, that kind of pressure
But we had
so
a team.
young.
We had a team.
Okay.
Of people, and so it's funny because NASA, we were responsible for managing the contractors who were actually doing the work. But my boss wanted to make sure, as an early career engineer, that I got my hands dirty. So I got the assignment to. Oh my God! It took me months to break down some of the ground support equipment that supported the testing of this hardware. I had to break it apart and put it back together. I remember working with the mechanics and the technicians and trying to find the bolt and the screw and the this and the that. But I love working with that's how my brain works. I'm really good with building things. That's how I grew up. I was always fixing things around the house. And so my mom always, she encouraged that. She didn't know what that was.
Right.
But when something broke around the house, she wasn't calling my dad. She was calling me to fix it.
Hello.
And in that, really nurturing those gifts, my natural gifts. So I had the opportunity to, build up this ground support equipment, which was incredible because we weren't actually doing the hands-on work. We were contracting that out to companies. But I had the opportunity to do that. So that was just like foundational for me in terms of what NASA, what NASA from a launch perspective was responsible for. Wow. Right? Making sure the astronauts were safe, making sure the experiments were safe. Because at that time, the space shuttle, the missions were 14-day missions. In fact, it's funny because I had Mae Jemison on my wall because I wanted to be an astronaut. And I started at NASA a month before her flight.
Wow.
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Wow.
So really getting to see her and executing her mission, it was incredible.
Wow.
And being a part of that.
The brains and just the people that you have come in contact with is just...
Yeah. I was working in the building where the astronaut quarters were, because they would have where they stayed when they were getting ready for their missions, and it was right in the same building. So I would sneak across there sometimes, and I was always, when they were coming out, getting ready to go, get to the launch pad. I would be, I mean, it's just incredible.
And to just be just that young and to be exposed to so much and to wow, did you really like work your way up the ladder at NASA?
Definitely worked my way up. But you don't know. I mean, you're young and naive, so you're trying to do the best you can. You're trying to learn as much as you can. It wasn't a straight route because I left there after like 2.5 years because I wanted to like go on and get another degree and get my PhD and all that stuff. So my career took different routes, but I would look at the totality of the 30 years, and I retired last year as a senior leader at Johnson Space Center and the deputy for the next generation of commercial space stations. The International Space Station is where our astronauts live and work right now, but we'll be retiring that in 2030, and it will be replaced by space stations that are owned and operated by commercial companies like SpaceX or Blue Origin, Jeff Bezos' company. So I was managing that program.
Wow.
And before that, the commercial lunar program. And so I've had I've been on the front lines of the the U.S. human space flight program. It's incredible. This little girl from Trinidad, this small dot in the Caribbean Sea, that grew up to be on the front line and to have such an impact and just be at the table. Not just be in the room, but be at the table.
Incredible. That journey is, like you say, that small little drop of water. You hearing someone say, he's an engineer, okay, he makes a lot of money, sold. Just from that young age, seed. That planted little seed turned into you being this. It's
when I think about it and I tell people,
I mean, I literally get chills. I just couldn't even, when you don't, sometimes you put yourself in a box and you don't truly understand what's possible. When people say you can do it if you put your mind to it, a lot of people are like, oh, that's just something people say. But then I look at someone like you and I'm like, no, everything you said you were going to do, everything that you manifested, everything that you worked for, it came to be. And like so much more than even possibly you even dreamed of. Sure.
You could never dream that big. You can't dream that big. You have big dreams, but dreaming that big, yeah. But what I had was a belief in myself.
Yeah. And
as time went along and I matured, I gained more confidence in myself. I didn't start off like that, but I just knew what I was bringing to the table and my pursuit of excellence. I tell young people, there's no substitute for excellence. And you, especially as a woman of color, you got to be 10 times better than everybody else.
Yes.
For half of the recognition. And you have to just know that that's how things are. But resilience, courage, determination, perseverance. Those are the things that I'm made of. That's what helped me to just keep putting one foot in front of the other and not giving up on myself and believing in myself when no other people didn't. Knowing that it is time to move on to another job and stepping out of my comfort zone into another position that I may not have any background, but I know I have an ability to think. I have ability to solve problems.
And to learn.
And if you give me the opportunity, I will kick butt, So just that belief in myself really helped actually help me move up, the advance in my career.
But not only were you intelligent, but you also had the work ethic to back it up.
For sure.
It's some people, they lose steam. They don't want to put in the work. They let the frustration overtake them. Like you said, you just kept putting one foot in front of the other and then walked right up to the rocket. I mean, like I can't even one foot in front of the other, right up to the rocket ship. I'm just
it was also important to have mentors. You got to have mentors. You got to seek people out who you think will support you, will see your greatness, I say, and hold you account to who you are,
Yeah.
right? So having mentors is super important, but having advocates and sponsors are even more important. And those are not people you seek out. Those are people who seek you out or are looking at you. You don't even know. You're always being watched. We were I was, we're always being watched. I tell young people that people are always observing. They don't say anything. You don't know they're looking, but they're seeing how you handle this situation, or how you handle being under pressure, how how you're working in teams and all that stuff. And that's when you gain advocates, people who will be talking about you when you are not in the room, or people who are saying, you know what, it is time for her to get her promotion. She's been in that position way too long, right? And so those were the game changers for me. It wasn't the mentors. The mentors help you navigate situations, but it was the advocates and the sponsors who actually were the game changers for me in terms of my advancement. And I learned that. That's something you don't know when you first starting your career. I learned that very late in my career, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, because you always, like I tell my kids, when you step out of the door of this house, you need to be putting your best foot forward every day, because you're out there representing yourself, your name, your brand. You
and
have
people
to.
Are looking all
People
the time.
are watching. People are watching. People are looking, and you never know when you walk out the house. You never know who you're going to meet. Like when I walked out the house that day and I'm packing up my kit, did I know I'm about to meet one of the most influential women in the world? I wasn't 100% sure. I didn't know that. And then I met you and I was like, oh, wait a minute. You, even though you radiate this confidence and you have this beauty, you're very like welcoming. Cause I mean, it can be very intimidating to meet
People
someone.
Say that's my superpower. I love people.
But you made me feel so comfortable, even though, and Claire's like, the photographer was like, she's whoa. And I was like, she's whoa. And she's like, we were just, both of us were like, we were mesmerized, but, and I'm just so grateful that even though you encompass all these amazing things, you still remained humble and because you can be confident in yourself and still be humble and grateful for the opportunities that were presented to you, and you do that. You have that sense about you. So I love that.
I am very clear of the opportunities, the unique opportunities I've had, the privilege it has been to do what I've done. I'm very clear and very grateful.
Yeah. Wow. You said you had some mentors. Was there anybody specific, maybe at Howard or in Florida, that like stood out to you that really like kind of helped push you in a way?
So many along the way. I would say I even had I had role models too. So a lot of how I navigated was looking at my role models. People I probably never even met. I mean, the women of Hidden Figures that we know now, the human computers. I mean, I'm very clear that I couldn't have done what I did if not for them. I stand on their shoulders.
That's right.
But I remember starting at NASA. And there's one hidden figure. She's still alive because she was younger than like the Katherine Johnsons of the world and the Mary Jacksons. She was 20 years their junior. But she came in as an engineer. They were mathematicians. She came in as an engineer and they put her in the human computer pool at Langley Space Center. And she had to fight to get in onto the engineering track because there was no progression. There was no path to advancement. Being in the human computer pool, she knew the path to advancement was being on the engineering side, and she was an engineer, so she fought. She actually became one of the first senior executives at NASA, Black woman, Dr. Christine Darden. I've never met her actually, but I remember she was still there when I started because I had a poster, and I didn't know that at the time. I mean, I knew about these women when everybody knew about them in 2017. I'm talking 1992, okay? I had a poster. Somebody had done a poster of all of the Black senior executives. Senior executives are like C-suite, right? The CEO, whatever, at NASA. And there were probably 10 people on the list, men and women, and she was one of them. And I knew, and what what fascinated me about her is because she actually was an expert in the same area I was an expert in. She was an aerodynamicist. She studied aerodynamics. She wrote papers. She had patents. She studied the sonic booms. When the shuttle used to come back, or even a SpaceX vehicle, if you are near, you would hear as it's coming through the atmosphere, there are these two loud booms, and it's called the sonic booms. And so she had patents on research on the sonic booms. And I was an aerodynamicist. So to me, she was like, oh my God, like I looked up to her like she was a goddess.
Wow.
Right? And so those people were the ones who I did research on. I looked at what they had done in their career, how they had navigated their career. And so even from a distance, they motivated me. They gave me a lot of strength. They inspired me.
Yes.
And so it's amazing that, now she's recognized as one of the hidden figures, but I knew about her when I first started my career, which was crazy.
Wow. But seeing her though, and that picture on the wall, that makes it tangible. That makes it achievable. You can see it and go, I can follow this path.
Yeah.
I can do this by seeing her up on that wall.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. And then I had another mentor who was in Kennedy. She was also on the poster. She was the first Black woman to be the chief medical officer at Kennedy Space Center. She had an MD, PhD, Dr. Long. She was a dear friend. She's since passed, but she was one of my early mentors in my career. Because there were many Black women. Like you could count them on one hand.
You could count them on one hand. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, that's not an exaggeration. And so she adopted me, and she would, guide me. And it was just, so she was early, that caliber of women were early kind of mentors, role models for me. But then I had men throughout my career. In fact, men who didn't look like me were the ones who actually end up advocating and being sponsors and helping me really advance, through my career. So it's not only people who look like us. Right. We gravitate towards those folks, but oftentimes it's people who don't look like us who become our greatest advocates.
Yeah. But I still just, the fact that you were in the presence of those type of women. I mean,
we just had a call. He's since retired now. He was a senior leader at NASA, brought all these retired senior executives together. It was like a few weeks ago. And somehow I got on the call because I'm retired now. And just being on the call with all these people I knew and admired and looked up to, it was just like mind blowing. Like early, the Black folks who were early and high up at NASA. I mean, those a rare group of people, but wow.
You have met some of the most brilliant minds to ever live.
I work.
I
always
mean,
say that. People
literally.
say, what are the highlights of your career? Is working with some of the most brilliant people you will ever meet in your life.
Wow.
And dedicated and passionate. They spend their careers 30 years, 40 years in space because it's what they love. It's pretty unique. Not easy, but pretty unique.
I'm just, I'm floored. The people that you have been in the company of and worked with, I mean, that just shows, but it shows that you're that high caliber of person and character and of what you are. You know what I mean? You look around and they do say, birds of a feather. You look around at the other feathers and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm one of the feathers in this cap with this group of women. Are you kidding me? I'm like, Dr. Camille, are you kidding me right now? What made you create your own company though? Because you stepped out and said, okay, I'm doing my...
Yeah, I wanted to be a business owner for the last 10 years.
Okay.
But I knew I had to get to a point where I'd put in so much time that I needed to get to a point where I could retire and at least leave with something, my health benefits or my pension or whatever. And so I started plotting like what is that age where I could retire and it's an early retirement, but I still leave with all the benefits that we'd worked for. And so that was early. It was the year before that when that day came, I started plotting my exit. And so I retired last January. Thank God, before all this craziness is happening now. I see all my friends. I tell the story of all of them were looking at me sideways because they were like, Camille, what do you mean you're retiring? You are way too young to retire. What? And you have so much more potential. I'm like, no, I'm going to bet on myself.
Yes.
This is what I want. I'm putting a plan in place to have my own company and start my own business, and I'm going to execute on that. And now they're like, girl, how did you know?
How did you see into the future and know?
The future? I'm like,
Yes.
I had a plan.
Yes.
So yeah, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And I did a lot of work at NASA to promote, inclusion and making sure there was representation of all kinds around the table. And that was not something I was seeing in the private sector. And so I was like, I want to bring that kind of new conversation to what it means to be the founder or CEO or leader of a private space company. And so that was one of the reasons I decided that I wanted to go out on my own. So, and I said, okay, my passion for space, my passion for making a difference. And so I created the vision of, my company, Arusha Space, which started out supporting the expansion of space around the world because there are many countries that are getting into space, investing in space, seeing the benefits of using space technology for improving the quality of lives of people. And then now we've expanded to using AI, developing AI solutions for space mission, for revolutionizing space missions and space exploration. So how do we use these advanced tools to make, say, satellites operate more efficiently, or for deep space exploration when there's communication latency because the probes are traveling so far, or whatever, that you use AI to help these systems be more autonomous, operate more autonomously, and be more efficient on board.
I mean, that's a mouthful.
Crazy.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But
high tech for sure.
Yes.
I'm bringing AI and space together.
But you travel all over the world. Sometimes I'll message you and you're like, I'm out of the country.
No, for sure.
You travel all over the world. You present, you speak. What has that been like to go physically in person and see?
Incredible. I've been to over 40 countries or something. A lot of
over 40 countries you visited.
A lot being invited to speak. And I mean, I'm known for the work I do with girls, empowering girls and stuff like that through my foundation. I also served as a space and science diplomat for the State Department. So they have this public diplomacy program where they send out experts in different fields to work with other countries that we're trying to build relationships with, or, the soft diplomacy kind of thing. And so they've sent me to several countries around the world doing that. But yeah.
What were some of the most incredible places you feel like you've been or seen?
Oh my God. Central Asia, for one. I've been there twice now, actually. But in 2019, this is an amazing story, actually. This was early 2019, before COVID. The State Department reached out and said, we have a bunch of girls in Kyrgyzstan, which I didn't even know where that was. I had to look up the map and all this stuff. And they said they're trying to build their own satellite to launch one day. Would you mentor them? So I was like, of course. I mean, that's incredible. And so we would get on Zoom. They're literally 12 hours ahead of me. So I would be on Zoom at midnight. It'd be 9 o'clock their time in the morning or something like that, talking to them, helping them. So I met them 4 times over the course of maybe 3 months or something. And then in the summer, the State Department said, Uzbekistan, we were celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Apollo landing
Mm-hmm.
all over the world. So the embassies all over the world were celebrating the 50th anniversary. And so the US embassy in Uzbekistan wanted me to come and be a speaker to, talk about the Apollo, blah, 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 blah. Well, Uzbekistan is really close to Kyrgyzstan.
Uh-huh.
And so the State Department was like, well, if you go to Uzbekistan, would you like to go meet the girls? So I'm like, of course, yes, because I've been mentoring them. And then they're like, well, in order to get from Uzbekistan to Kyrgyzstan, you have to go through Kyrgyzstan. So do you want to spend a few days in Kyrgyzstan? So I end up doing this 10-day tour of Central Asia, inspiring and empowering, talking to young people, young women who in tech or, just showing them what was possible. So that by far was the highlight. And then I got to go back last year to Kyrgyzstan.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I bet those girls were shocked.
They're young women now.
Yeah.
And it was incredible.
My goodness.
It really
I mean, but look at you
incredible.
inspiring them, because there's no telling where their careers have taken them now.
And they have taken on the mentorship role, and they go around different parts of Kyrgyzstan and inspiring young women to,
When did you create your foundation?
In 2007, it was after a trip to Kenya, my first trip to the African continent with an organization called Cosmic Education. And they would do these summer programs called Under African Skies. And you'd know why they call it that, because when you see the skies at night in Kenya, oh my God, it's the most breathtaking thing. Not as, because there's no light, so you just see the fullness of the stars in the sky. So they call it Under African Skies. But what they would do is go into schools and do experiments with the students to kind of translate what they were learning in theory to practical applications. And so that year I went with them and I was doing rocket experiments, and we were launching paper rockets with using Alka-Seltzer and water and teaching them the Newton's 3 laws of motion in that activity, because they were learning it in the book, but they had no idea, well, why do I need this? So many times the students are like, even here too, well, how is this relevant to life?
Yeah, you need to see it put into practice.
Exactly. Yes. So that's what we're doing. And I was so inspired by that experience that I came back and said, the way to expand space around the world is through education. And so that was kind of like the impetus for me creating the mission of educating, empowering, and inspiring girls, because I was one of those girls, and I didn't see anyone who looked like me coming up in the pipeline, even at NASA. And so I was like, this is how I want to give back. I want to take everything I've learned and all the privileges I've had and help to inspire the next generation. And that was the beginning of my foundation, 16 years now. And I've spoken to and impacted thousands, tens of thousands.
Wow.
Around the world.
How do you manage all of this? The foundation, company.
The foundation is a part-time. I've never done it full-time because I've always had a full-time job. But when you are passionate about something and it was something that always fulfilled me, then you find time to do it. Yeah. And so I'm mentoring. Somebody asked me this morning if I'll mentor one of their friends. I just find the time. So it's important.
I want to know though, when did L'Oreal reach out to you about the campaign that they were doing?
Probably a few days before you met me.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's short enough.
No, it was just literally, I got an email one day that said, we're doing this campaign, 45th anniversary of L'Oreal, and the 45 women from the 45 Caribbean women who moved, 45 women who moved the Caribbean, and we had a panel and a judge, and you were selected as one of the 45.
Wow.
Randomly, I just got the email.
But of course you were selected. How could you not be?
No, but I'm pretty known. I'm definitely pretty known in Trinidad and other parts.
Are you a celebrity when you go home? Because I would be running up to you looking for an autograph. I wanted you to
I
sign
don't know
something
if
that day, but then I thought,
recognize
no,
me.
don't do that.
When people hear my name, they're like,
They know. There's like, that's
you?"
her. Yes.
Like I was in Tobago a few weeks ago at a science conference, mini symposium. The organizer wants to promote science throughout the Caribbean and how it could benefit and impact in a good way the region. And so they were able to organize a bunch of high school kids to come. And so I kind of like, it was like, can I talk to them? Because I love talking to kids. And so I was talking to the young people, and the teachers, a couple teachers came up to me after, and they said, "Oh my God, we study you and the children study you in school as one of a handful of Caribbean scientists or whatever." And she was like, "Yeah, the kids know who you are.
You're the blueprint. You are the lesson that they're learning."
It's amazing. It's a privilege. I mean,
that's your legacy right there. That is your legacy where you're from, in your home. Yeah. They opened their book and they're learning about you and what you accomplished and how you got there.
And that they could do it too.
Wow. Are you what? That is amazing.
It's impact.
I mean, long before you're gone from this earth, that children will be speaking your name and they will know what you have accomplished and what you have done for women of color, people of color, just as a whole.
Parents reach out all the time.
Wow.
They sell pictures of their daughter or their son, and they did a project on me or whatever. It's humbling. Mm-hmm. It is humbling.
That's incredible. I'm sitting here like thinking back to my little volcano that I made, and I'm sitting here like someone like you to inspire young people and to make them understand and know it doesn't matter if you're from a little tiny island. It doesn't matter what corner of the world. You can walk through the doors of whatever you want to walk through the doors from.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
With hard
work hard. Yes, and I know when you went, what made you take that decision to kind of detour and go back to school and get your PhD?
I always wanted to get a PhD. I felt like that would be the thing that, brought me. Well, it's funny because I didn't do my PhD in engineering. I did my PhD in educational leadership because of my foundation, because of the work I wanted to do with the foundation, speaking in influencing policy and decision makers in terms of education for girls around the world. And I felt that to have that type of credibility, to do research, to bring data to the table, I needed to have my PhD. And so, and it has really opened doors, and, it brings the credibility on what I'm speaking about,
Wow. Yeah. I just love that you're unapologetic about, like, you, of course you're interested in motivating all children, but I love how you're unapologetic about helping young girls and young women.
Well, I started my story by saying I grew up in all-girl environments.
Yes.
And so it tracks back to the fact that I experience everything I'm doing is a product of what I've experienced. Yeah. Right. And knowing that type of environment really shaped me. Gave me the confidence to know that I could do math and science. I don't think a lot of co-educational environments encourage girls. There's a lot of bias in the system. So they may be like, oh, the boys are good in math. The boys should go and do engineering. They may not be encouraging the girls. And I think those kind of environments allow you to self-actualize. You could be anything that you want to be in those type of environments. And so it's from that experience that helped me shape the mission of the foundation, that I knew that we weren't encouraging girls. There weren't girls coming up in the pipeline. And it's so important to see yourself represented. I say you can't be it if you don't see it. And that representation matter, the having role models, having people to look up to who look like you is so important. Yes. And so that all stem from my upbringing.
And I just love how even the simplest thing where you're talking about the posters on your wall, when everybody else has a poster of Prince, You're like, no.
I had those too when I was a teenager, but no, for sure. When I was in college, I was very focused.
Yes,
You know,
you had your goal. You meant before a vision board was a term. You put that poster on the wall of this is who I'm following in the footsteps of. This is what I'm going to do, and you did not deviate from the plan. I
did not.
You just stood your ground and then walked through the doors and then made the decision when it was time for you to leave and create your own space and carve out your own space in that industry.
I've always kind of.
Did you just always but you felt it, you knew you were different, like you knew it in your spirit. I feel like you knew.
I think we had friends or family that would say you're gonna be you're special, like you're gonna be something one day, you're gonna do something big. But when you're 6 and 7, you're like, okay, you don't know what you just dismiss that and you move on. But they saw something in you, that light or that drive or that curiosity or whatever that was. So I always had that, but really you could have that and not do anything with it.
Right. You had the work ethic to back it up. The work
ethic, the determination, the drive, the ambition, the passion for life and for living the things that you are passionate about. I feel like there's no other way. Not everybody has the luxury to do that because we're busy trying to put food on the table.
Yes.
But I think if you have the opportunity to think through what it is that I love to do and how can I pursue that, I think life is so much more fulfilling.
Absolutely. You've accomplished so much at this point. I mean, I'm kind of, what else is there? Like
I want to grow my company.
Yes.
And to be super successful. That's my goal. That's my goal right now.
That's the goal.
To grow my company. My daughter is grown. She's on her way. She's doing well. And so this is my time to.
Wow. How old is your daughter?
26.
Wow. Yep. She's whole grown.
And she's in law school.
I love it. I love it. So is mine. Yeah, younger, but yeah, they're on that path. They're on that track. And I love it.
I mean, killing it. You think I'm doing stuff? She's off the charts.
And look at that. You made that. You cultivated that, mama. I mean, but how could she not? To have you as a mother and a mentor, it's like you can't help.
For sure.
Yeah, the expectation. The
bar was high,
so
and I
high.
feel like she's so surpassed. It is incredible.
I love it. That she didn't get intimidated by the bar. She said, well, I'll just jump over it.
She just,
I love it.
Yep.
I love it. That's incredible. That's incredible. Oh my goodness. I want to say that your foundation, the Brightest Stars Foundation, kudos to you for seeing the need and just moving forward with that. I was going through the website and looking at some of the other board members and some of these other accomplished women that you do this with. I mean, is it that just you all just found each other?
I sought people out.
You sought them out to be a part of it?
Who have a passion for
Yeah.
making a difference, specifically for young women in this case. And
you
young
put together
women
quite
in
a
the
collective.
sciences, it's important to see, again, have those role models, and they become role models for other young women. It's passing it on, paying it forward.
Yes, absolutely. And you've definitely inspired a lot of young people throughout your career, and with them learning all about you in their textbooks. I mean,
can I share this story that it
please
just really came full circle when I was in Tobago the other day, because one of the young and upcoming physicist, and she's at Princeton. She's assistant professor at Princeton.
I was just at Princeton. Wow.
She was a mentee of mine. She saw me back in 2014 or 2015. She heard me speaking in Trinidad. I'd come there for something, and then the university called and said, oh, we having this math Olympiad and it's the finals. Could you come and talk to the kids? And I went and I shared my story. She was in the audience thinking, God, I love math and all that. And I love astronomy. I want to be an astronaut. I have no idea. I'm just going to forget that because I don't think I could do it. And she heard me and ended up pursuing a career in astrophysics, doing her postgrad at Stanford and Oxford, and now is at Princeton. And as a professor, like full circle. And so I got to spend time with her in Tobago because I hadn't seen her in a long time. And she, she tells the story of I'm here because I heard Camille. And it's just, yeah, it was amazing. It's just that kind of thing, wow.
It never gets old. And to have that type of impact on somebody's
Impact,
life.
like concrete impact.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah. And now she's a beacon of hope for so many young women who, want to do the same thing.
And if she carries on that tradition of you of helping people, I mean, that it's the ripple effect. Like I was talking about that one drop in the ocean, that one drop you put in the ocean. Look at the ripple you caused.
And I was thinking about that actually when we were there. It's incredible.
I mean, I would keep you here all day. I know I can't. This is a busy woman. She runs an entire company and a foundation. She has a life she has to get back to. It was an honor and a privilege seeing you today and meeting you in general, and just having you for the few short times I've met you, just be a part of my life. I'm inspired. My daughters were inspired. I told them all about you. It's just, I've told everybody I know about this. I just recently spoke at Bowie Elementary to a young girls group. And I was telling them, do you have any idea? I was telling them, next week, this is what I'm going to do. And they were like, you're going to talk to a rock scientist? I was like, yes, because it was young girls, different ethnicities, different backgrounds. And they were just like, that's amazing. I'm going to ask my mom if I can listen. And I'm like, you have no idea what you are truly capable of. I'm telling you, the sky actually is the limit. Believe that. Yeah. And I used you as an example when I was speaking to those girls. I'm like, just to even be in the presence of someone like you it's an honor. It's a blessing. Like I said, I can't thank you enough for taking this time out of your extremely busy schedule to spend an hour with me. It means the world.
You are extraordinary too, my dear. So it was my honor to meet you and to have you make me so beautiful for that shoot. And I think what you do is really, you pour into women and you have them see their beauty, and that is priceless.
Well, thank you. You've made me cry twice. But thank you so much for being here. And I just hope people listening to this episode, if you're struggling with something or you're thinking you can't accomplish something, please just listen to her story and what she's accomplished in her life, and just know that if you put the work behind the dream and the passion, nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. Because I'm telling you, just thinking about you being a young woman walking through the doors of NASA, I'm absolutely floored. And that tells me that anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. Please check us out on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast. And also check out the Brightest Stars Foundation and, check it out, drop a like, and maybe figure out a way that you can help a young person in your life and see if you can make a difference for them. Thank you so much, and take care, everyone.